Greatest common denominator, I guess. So I'm Linda Hubert, and I work with Parks Department, and I work closely with Kelly. Please sign in if you haven't done so at some point in the evening. And we are going to recycle or compost your plates and stuff like that. So if you want to just do you know where that bag went? We'll put a bag out to make sure that you put it in the right place so we can compost it later. I just wanted to start off the meeting tonight because there was so much passion in the last meeting, and passion is good, we like passion. But we wanted to make sure that everybody understood that we are here to respectfully listen to people's opinions, and we want to make sure everybody who wants to get heard does get heard. So we want to be orderly in how we make sure everybody gets their piece said. So we have something at the Parks Department called the Rules of Engagement, and I'm just going to read them to you so that you kind of have a basic understanding of kind of the rules of the road. So one is, do not be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And so we want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. So if you want clarification on anything, do not be afraid to ask. Number two, allow others to speak without interruption. So please make sure, not everybody gets it out right away. And so make sure people have the opportunity to think about what they're going to say while they're saying it and get out their whole thought and give people a chance to, go one at a time. Please contribute your ideas and opinions as clearly as you can. Respect each other's opinions, even if they're different. Acknowledge that different perspectives can be valuable in coming to a better product in the end. Please keep your reactions and responses from being personal and argumentative. So just be respectful of others. And respect time constraints. We only have 1 hour here, and then there's going to be another meeting afterwards, the SPAC group, so some of you may want to stay for that as well. And the library, as you know, closes at 8 o'clock, but they start banging the gong about 7:30 to remind people that, they're going to be closing in 30 minutes. So at that time, at 8 o'clock, they'll be kicking us out. So just be mindful of that. But this meeting is just for an hour, so we want to make sure we get as much out of it as we can. And so Kelly's going to give you kind of a overview, and go Kelly.
And it looks like everybody got the message that this meeting originally was going to be our final meeting for the skate park and the playground, but it's split out. We're going to only focus on the skate park tonight, and then the November 30th meeting is going to be the playground only. So we do have the full hour tonight. We're not sharing that time. And we've got the full site plan up here right now, but I will take this down. So as usual, we'll record comments and everything. For anyone who hasn't been to the first 2 meetings, I don't know if we've got a couple of new faces maybe, mostly folks who've been here before though. This is the Roxhill Skatespot. Skatespot being below 10,000 square feet. Right now we are trying to target this one to not exceed 9,000 square feet. We have a budget of $600,000, and we are planning to be in construction next year. So we are pushing out right now. We would be ending construction and opening towards the later half of 2012, and we're doing everything we can to keep that moving. So that's the basic info. And as far as process goes, this is the last of our 3rd public meetings. So we've got a lot to go through for a typical final meeting, so we want to make sure we hear as much as we can from everybody, and we'll probably have to use the web as a means of getting additional, whatever our final refined design is, because as you've already seen, we've got multiple options to look at, and we'll be collecting comments on all of those tonight. And having to make some final adjustments to whichever is a prioritized thing. Hopefully we don't have to shift much from what we have, so that doing a final wrap up via web, it will be something we can come to. So I want to take everybody through, because this is the third meeting. We also had a SPAC meeting in there as well, so there have been 4 meetings through the process we've gone through so far. So on September 12th, we actually went to, which was the last SPAC meeting that took place, which is Skate Park Advisory Committee. And these are the original schematics that were shown at the SPAC meeting at that time. And these were based on some feedback from the very first meeting. And the Judkins Skatespot as well as Roxhill went to the SPAC same evening. And I think one of the things that we heard quite a bit of, also in between that time, we had all these schematics, including these 2 at the Del Ridge skate park event. And a lot of the comments that we were hearing were that, you know, Seattle's lacking a skate plaza, and we were getting some other features at the Judkins site. So there was sort of some direction given to the design consultants to move forward on more of a street plaza style, because we know that's where they excel. We have the option to use some of the features from Street League if we go that route and push that route more, which gives us a little more savings on the overall budget. So even though there was interest in these, there was some feeling that, you know, it wasn't really filling that void of the street plaza style. So when we came back to, so these are some of the comments that bullet point we put together from that, after that SPAC meeting. I don't think there's any in there that we really didn't hit on. I think we had discussion about the skate run, about, you know, if it was to stay, that it should have more street features in there, but we didn't want it to be at the expense of losing a street plaza all around. There was talk at that time about the dead end at the bottom and addressing those issues. So the next meeting that we had following this was the second public meeting we had here. This is schematic that was shown, and we do have this down below. It was definitely different from the original schematics in terms of pushing more towards that plaza element. And then this is the other layout of the features, which we used as a comment sheet actually from that meeting. And we received, I think, 2 comment sheets back after that meeting. This is the original site plan and how that plan sits into the site there. We have a revised version that Shujen is our parks landscape architect, and she put one of the new renderings in there now, so we've got an updated one. So some of the bullet points just from the meeting, second meeting itself, prior to collecting comments after the fact. The street plaza thing, idea was well received, and there was agreement that was something that we needed. Needs to be a way to skate back to the top was a big concern that was raised by several people. Providing hips, bumps, which providing momentum, again, feeding into that ability to return back to the top. Unique features to distinguish the site, that's something we hear a lot about for all of our meetings, and heard about that again here. The collision hazards, there was a lot of concern that some of the features that were there that were being used were going to set up collisions, and people had concern about that, and the traffic. And then changing the height of the mirror. There were a lot of features that were kind of mirrored in there, and doing something to change that up, whether it was just changing the height or changing the features themselves, so that we had more variety instead of double elements. So these drawings were posted. This was a very small shift just after that first one that we posted and sent out. Posted these to the website, and we sent out email to everybody that's been signed in, and the SPAC helped us send out information. Skate Like a Girl helped us send out information. Everybody helped us kind of get the word out. Actually, the blogs were really great and posted links to this as well. So we had a lot of people that did that. We had a October 31st cutoff date to collect all that feedback, and we really did receive a lot of emails and whatnot. Not a lot of people mark this up so much, but we got a lot of just sort of general feedback via email from that process. So that worked out pretty well. Prioritizing what we heard most from collecting that extra feedback. A lot of it really did mirror some of the stuff that we heard at the second public meeting, that ability to provide flow. And I'm kind of putting that together with the ability to come back to the top, that movement and ability skate through the full site. Something custom and unique was another one that we heard a lot of. Reducing the bottlenecks and collision sites. Keeping the street style and including rails and stairs. I have a laundry list of types of rails and stairs that people requested. I lumped those together. And work with the landscape better and possibly using a snake trail with street features and banks. The Design Commission, this project has gone to the City Design Commission, and working with the landscape was something they were particularly interested in, that and our drainage, which they're always interested in. And then providing gathering spaces, which we've really been working on getting the footprint and the layout down before we spent a lot of time on that, but Shujen's been thinking about it on every one of these variations that's come through, and we do have a couple spots kind of marked out and identified for where we want to put those. We've also been spending a lot of time walking down to Del Ridge and a couple of the other sites to see where people are hanging out and see if we could kind of draw some information as to where those desirable places are. We know under the trees are particularly interesting spots for people to hang out. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Colby, who is here from California Skate Parks, and he will walk you through the latest drawings that we have. I'm going to pull up the note board and make sure we have comments down. So I'm going to let Colby explain what he's got in each of these, and then we'll start, once he's done going through those, we'll start into comments and questions.
You guys doing? A couple new versions with a couple new concepts with 2 versions of each, with the main attempt to remove the bottleneck that everyone was worried about, and create some more circular flow. Another thing that we changed, it's kind of hard to tell because these are facing different than they were last time, but if this is the top of the hill and everything's terracing down the hill this way, you can think of it that way. And one of the concepts was to kind of try to, well, all the concepts basically moved up 10 feet and over 10 feet, and it was an attempt to change the footprint, get it away from this lower pedestrian path so we could put something down here. On these 2 concepts, the London plane tree is preserved, and that's why there's like these planters around this London plane tree. And on these 2 concepts, the London plane tree is removed and just allows you to shift the skate park over a little bit differently than this one.
Colby, can you just note out the streets, which is north, south, so people have the orientation? I know Shujen just switched those, so.
Park is on the right.
West is
Yeah, the parking lot for the skate park, or for the park, is over here on the left. And this is, what's this main road?
Park.
So our orientation on the slides is a little different.
So these concepts tried to keep this bridge feature and have kind of like a linear lane that you could keep skaters going in this direction, but you can also loop as well. It was just a way to be able to have the spacing that you need before and after those features to get a little ledge alley or a place for the bridge. So if we didn't want to use the bridge or the ledges, something like this would work. But just 2 new concepts to see what you guys think.
I don't know if is it easier for people to see the projection?
Yeah, I don't know what's easier for you guys to look at.
Can you just kind of explain the features, like what you've added I think you got bank curve type thing on the bottom right. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then the bridge feature is being what? That's like can't. Like
It's this thing.
Bank.
It's this thing from the event.
Oh yeah, okay.
You can ride it on the outside like an up-down ledge. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff you can do on it. So that's in there. These 4 stair hubs are in there.
Those are right above the bridge feature, basically.
Yeah.
So it goes the 4 stairs down to the bridge feature, and then to the right of the bridge feature is what? Just like a rail?
This is the ledge with the flat bar across it.
Well, and the bench there too? That's cool.
Yeah. And here's the other ones. We have them. We can use them. This
And then
is
so
the
features-
most skatable location, but
feature J ends up in what? Like, what's that?
This is, right now, is drawn as a flip bank, really can be.
How,
I pretty much made everything banks after you guys said to reduce the tranny. There's
How
always
tall
option to
is that
change
banky, though?
anything into a bank or a tranny.
Yeah.
That thing right now is drawn at 4.5 feet tall, I believe. Similar to, saw a photo of it. This flip bank here at Cesar Chavez in Arizona. It's pretty cool. It's got a 10-foot radius to a 35-degree bank.
Yeah.
Super fun. But these two concepts maintain the hip down there. It could be tranny hip or banked hip. These two concepts are just flip banks. It's kind of like, I kind of like this one. It's kind of like the fork in the road. So you drop down these two levels and you can go this way and skate back and forth, or you can loop back up on this side.
But then, so what's that with that curved bank? How high is that one?
That thing is similar to Stoner Plaza. It's 3 feet tall with 1 foot curb. It's about 40 foot long. Has your little tunnel or something to carve over. It could be for drainage, for run out.
Is that kinked at the bottom, or is it transitioning?
This thing?
Yeah, that's like.
That could be totally up to you guys. Yeah, we've been doing it both ways.
Do you want to look at the large, the other one?
Yeah, can you flip through this?
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's the first to the other.
I think, in my opinion, these ones are a little too much going on for the size with all the elevation changes. I personally like toning it down to just two elevation changes over the whole site. These look big on paper, but you can imagine when there's 50 kids there, it's going to be pretty jammed. So, less is more almost as far as features, amount of features.
Yeah, I think even the irregular footprint makes it just a little more interesting.
Yeah.
As opposed to just
This one's more square.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus.
And then multiple endpoints, I think, is really, really huge. So that everybody's not just getting in everybody's way. I definitely like the ones that are
I just want to say, I think you guys did a good job dealing with the feedback and the chaos that was the last meeting. It looks like you've come away with a definite improvement. Nice work.
I like the way that it's evolved. It was good constructive criticism last meeting, and I think it's definitely a good progression in the right direction.
Sorry, but I'm just trying to get details. It's so hard to see all
Sure,
this far
sure.
away. But so you scaled both these designs on the right down. That's like 2 general levels, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Is there still
The
3 levels in that
elevation-
top little section?
The elevation drops are basically the same. This is an 18-inch drop and then a 2-foot drop.
Okay, sweet.
This will be a 2-foot drop. Actually, these ones cutting through the middle are really mellow. They're only like 2 stairs or 1-foot drop. So, I mean, you could almost consider that that's not even there really, because it's just, I mean, you could just slope it. It's just only a 1-foot drop there. So if you guys do like something with the multiple stair sets going all different directions, we could make something like that work for sure too. And if we didn't want to maintain this London plane tree, these planters could get reduced, or the stairs could wrap and the planters could go away.
We also have the opportunity.
That
to
might create like a 90-degree hip, or different things like that if the planters go away. But I like planters and plazas. I feel like it gives it a really nice plaza vibe.
Do they all have planters, right?
No.
They do, but they can go away.
Oh, you're good, okay. So they all have.
What's the height and stuff on the top, like corner bank or whatever that? What is that top corner? The top
Up
yeah,
here?
right there. What is that?
That height, I think, is going to have to be dictated by the grades, and I'm almost thinking that this corner has to escalate down, because this is where the site starts to drop quite a bit. This might have to come around the corner, whatever bank or tranny's there, and it might have to start escalating down around the corner to follow the grades back here. But right now, these have always been drawn at about 3 feet tall, like a slappy type bank,
3 to nothing.
40 degree type thing.
What about the lighting?
We don't have any.
I wish we had lighting.
Although
The
we're
future.
working on options.
We could probably sleeve and do conduits if we need to for future.
Yeah.
Are you guys
Oh,
using
yeah.
those benches from Street League, like the ones with the yellow?
We'd like to,
yellow on top?
if it's up to you
Hold up
guys.
the ones you've got.
Um,
They're currently in that drawing, right?
Yeah, I was just saying,
Yeah,
those
they're-
things,
This thing's in there.
yeah, they look really tall, like, And
This is a 16-inch bench, 16 inches tall, and the bar is 8 inches above that.
Okay.
16 and 2.
Yeah, that just seems pretty tall, I mean,
16-inch ledge?
yeah.
Do we have the ability
Or at least the
to,
bar.
Maybe not for Chris Cole, I don't know. 6, I've been doing any ledges from 14 to 16, pretty much.
I think that brings up a good point that we've been talking about since Deer Deck made this donation, is that these are features that are made for professional skaters, and so when people speak up about it being too big, I think it's important to note that, because most people aren't hitting the big stuff.
16 inches is not big for
I-
ledge.
yeah, I'm-
18
I
inches
was
is a little
street,
higher
I'm just
for,
saying.
for ledge, but I think 15 to 16 inches is perfect ledge height.
I like
We have-
6 or 8 for me.
Me too. But there might be a way. I know there might be a way to cut these bottom legs off and trim the bars and raise the bottom legs up so the bench is lower.
Is there anything
I just-
lower?
yeah.
I want to be
Wait,
able to see
I want to
the
make sure that
rails.
Pardon me?
we've got hands going up everywhere, so I just want to make sure we're using that method, and we have one in the back for a
You
while.
just answer everyone's questions.
Hey Kobe, you want that sound for you want to show that?
If you want to,
Yeah.
There's a couple just 3Ds that we started working on just to show some elevations, but
So that
it kind of helps you realize how tight everything really is. Like when you see it in these plan view drawings, it looks pretty spacious. So that helps you get a feel.
You know those planners, can you make it like a wall ride style, so it's not just like a straight wall but slanted a
Bank
bit?
style, yeah.
That would
for
be-
sure.
Just like Bellevue, that's super.
Maybe a couple sides are banked and 2 sides are vertical or something.
Okay, Matt, you have your hand up.
I do. I think another way to maybe address the issue of skill level or whatever is, since the one of the dots of feedback from the last 2 meetings was that this park addresses multiple skill levels. Maybe you could just go through like the designs that you have up here and just show like this is a basic skill level 1. This is where the advanced guys can go, just to show that you've actually designed something that has multiple skill levels in it.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of cool about plazas and just, I mean, the parks that we design in general, we try to accommodate all types of skaters and all levels of ability if we can. I mean, on a 16-inch ledge, I mean, it might be harder for beginners to learn, so if it's important to have ledges and stuff that are lower, there might be areas we can incorporate those in. But all the stair drops are mid to low height, so I think it's good to learn how to jump down stairs, but also good for the most technical skaters. I think everything's kind of mid-sized, so I think it's really good for everybody.
But see, so the feedback another piece of feedback that we got last time was that it seemed like everything was kind of the same size.
Mhm.
And that if you had duplicate stuff, maybe varying them throughout the design would make it so that even if there were 3 rails that were all kind of on that one bank
That's
coming down,
what this
one was
concept
short,
was
one was
trying to
medium.
do. Yeah, this
Okay.
has multiple elevation changes, so this would be a 3-foot drop, this would be a 1-foot drop, this would be an 18-inch drop, and this would be a 2-foot drop.
And how high are the rails that going down?
Right now, they're kind of in proportion to the drop.
Okay.
But they can be adjusted to however, you know.
I would suggest us having, like, on the 1-foot drop, having a small rail, and then, you know what I mean? Making them staged so that if you were totally lame and couldn't skate the big, you know, whatever you're saying is easy, but like, a lot of people aren't gonna be able to do that. They could start somewhere on something small.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got
Rail
the-
heights can be whatever.
We've got the young man in the red hat. Here we go.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Any ledges that are not the street league, or any ledges or curves that you guys are going to make from concrete? Would you ever consider not putting a metal cap on them and just making them like smooth concrete instead of having a metal 90-degree angle?
I'm all for that. I'm all
Because
for that.
that just gets old, always having the metal on the angle.
I'm all for that. I mean, you know the reality of that, but it's nice
Just
to
the
have the
crumbling,
option.
eventually the crumbling
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, but I mean, we could build it in a way so that it's a cap. It's a concrete cap.
That could be like
So when
replaced
it
if
does
necessary.
get banged up, we can replace the cap.
But I don't want to have to bring wax to the skate park, you know, if it's.
Don't worry, I will.
Anybody?
Yeah, Seattle, you know, they pass park levies, and so I want to encourage you, you brought up that great point about lighting. Plan for lighting, and in fact, try to get the infrastructure in if you can, because there's a program where the neighborhood can appeal for funding in the future and say, okay, we got the lines in, we got the power in, let's ask them to put the lighting in. And then you've got it set up, it'll be cheaper, easier, and you're kind of ready to go and you're thinking about the second phase of enhancing the site.
Yeah.
And then let me ask you a question about the plants. I noticed with Hank, when he goes, there's leaf litter, certain times of the year, and, have you thought about the kind of species of trees and plants around it, and have you thought about minimizing kind of the impact on stuff falling down, getting on the track, and making it a little harder for the skater?
Yeah, we have, and the trees seem to be more desirable than litter on the skating surface. Most of the trees on site, I think, are deciduous, so they're going to be dropping leaves, which can stain colored concrete and be a slip hazard or whatnot. So we're going to have to, people are going to have to maintain the park and make sure it's, which skaters do for
Our
themselves.
staff come out with blowers whenever it's dry enough. I know Delridge, there's a lot of leaves out there right now, and there's usually brooms kicking around that I know the skaters come out with and sweep everything with too. So the wet fall days are the worst because we can't. It's just not as easy to clear them off.
Okay, this fella in the watchman's cap, you had your hand up?
Oh yeah, well about the lights, I know that I don't want to distract too much from the actual skate park, but I know at the first meeting they said there were species of birds and bats that wouldn't be happy with the lights. Is that finalized? You can't do lights ever?
No, I think the main thing, one of the things with the technology around the lights right now is that you can really focus them and not have a lot of spill. We're doing this on our ball fields right now. And if you shield those, you can really get directed light that doesn't impact the surrounding area. And so if we were to look at it, we would definitely be looking at that as an option. So, and we typically hire a lighting consultant for all those projects to make sure that that's the case, and they come out and they do light readings from inside and outside.
So you're next, and then you, and then back here.
So, I think Lower Woodland had a private donation for a lot of things like brooms and whatnot. Is it possible to do consider something like that here?
We would consider it actually at the SPAC meeting. It came up to do, if we have this, and we've got to fill this straight down, to actually make a locker underneath there with doors that would make use of that space, because the maintenance folks do not like us to have these sort of cantilever things where it just becomes a mess underneath. It's something, I thought it was a great idea. It's something we like to look at. We're going to be nickel and diming these budgets to get just the skate surface and the seating and everything that we need. So we would love to include it. It's definitely something I'll put on the list again, but it's going to come down to what we can afford to do it.
And there is an Adopt a Park program, and like for the dog parks, for example, they have cleanup parties and they raise funds to buy tools that they need to keep the dog park going. So that's something that you can think about, because there are people in the Parks Department who will help you if you want to set up one of those friends out groups. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, most parks have rails. They have a box or maybe a flat rail, but usually their down rail is going to be doing a 4 or 5 stair, and that's kind of there's nothing that really in between. So maybe that was really cool that have a rail that's bigger than the 4th stair, but maybe one down the 1 or 2 foot drop that's a little smaller, because most rails are either giant or really little. So.
You mean longer or higher or both?
Just lower, yeah. Just a lower one, a higher one, a longer one thing.
Yeah.
Just different.
It's kind of hard to do a real rail on a 3-stair too, you know what I mean? Because it's such a low drop, and then ends up being so short or extending way past the stairs and looking like a handicap rail or something.
Yeah.
So it's hard. But I usually, for a 5-stair or 6-stair, I usually try to set it up so that if you ollie out 30 inches, 2.5 feet is a typical distance, 2.5 to 3 feet out. It's knee height to get on. So you're standing back looking at the rail and it looks big, it looks real. But if you ollie out 2.5 feet, it's knee height, so it's kind of very user friendly.
Okay, first you, and then the young man in the red hat. You had another question then, right? Yeah. Okay, and then you.
I was going to quickly support his idea of pre-wiring for lights. If you can't have them now, just having that conduit out there is such an amazingly good idea. That's maybe where we come in with this Friends of the Park type idea too. like to combine lights and potentially someday sheds. You know, I'm thinking like pea patches all over the city. They get like an actual shed, so we should be able to come up with some little where you hang a broom. Like Delridge really needs where we hang a broom. You know, it could be attached to the fence. But really, what he's saying about this low ledge, and I don't know if anybody's skated Old Red Square, but there was a 12-inch high ledge that goes down a bank that's like, super mellow. I think a lot of older people skated that ledge and really liked it. It's very small, so it's not even, I wouldn't consider it a rail, but it definitely seems like, especially you could function with one of these big, thick street league pieces of metal, but just put like 12 inches high going down the hill instead of like where it's like make or break. Knee high to you is not knee high to him for one. Knee high to him is like that's like waist good.
That's a great
That's
idea.
waist high. So
Like flat ledges, are you guys talking like lower flat ledges, or also something going down?
like a downhill,
Like a
but
high curve down.
Like down, you can even do one of your smaller elevation like top ones. You're saying it's only, you said it was only 18 inches or difference, and that could be just barely mellow banked. So you could get on that rail and be like going slow. So kids
A rail or like a
go,
double-sided curve?
yeah, even that, like a rounded hard
So you can like
surface.
practice on something smaller before you throw it down the channel.
The red square bank I'm referring to is old aggregate concrete that's been crunched forever, and it's nice waxed rounded concrete, and it's a super fun, like your size.
Is it worth replicating? Like, do you have any photos of it? Or?
We can get photos of that for sure. It's a classic piece of University of Washington architecture that's been skatable since like 1970, and it was originally a bank. And they put benches in front of it to make it not skatable for 70 guys, which turned into the perfect 90s street skate spot. So it's definitely a thing that we should have a picture of on file for like a Seattle spot that's like, ooh, we shouldn't skate there, but like it's a famous piece of art that was really skatable, and then they tried to make it not skatable and it was skatable again.
Well, I think we'll go take a picture of that. The young man in the red.
I have two things. What I want to add to this, like, where there's two hubbas, like between the rail and the hubba, you could put like the small ledge that he's talking about right next to it, down the bank. So like you can either go for the big one, or you can come down from the other side and go to a small.
Right here or over here?
Like no.
Even on the edge.
Between the rail and the hubba, like you could put the really low ledge right next to the hubba, like down by it. So if you ollie and grind it, you won't run to the hubba, but you can also ollie on the other side and grind the hubba or the rail.
Yeah.
And then the other one, like the stair planning, like what would be the biggest stair set you guys could put in it?
I mean, if we wanted to get like an 8 stair or something in the park, we could, but it would change the elevations of like how a lot of the other elevations work around it. But if that's really a high priority, for sure, we could make it work.
Yes.
Just a thought on this kind of beginner rail idea and how we're making it shorter and closer to the ground. I think it's also important to talk about making it a little longer so that there's more of an opportunity to get on it and actually slide a little ways or grind a little ways instead of, because I know like the first rail that I ever skated was low, but it was also really short. So you basically just kind of banked off of it. You weren't learning how to really like balance on a rail.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to make the entry to it a little bit longer, so like you get on it and you're actually board sliding or grinding before you go down the elevation change, might be helpful too.
Yeah.
Bicycles.
So what's your thought, Colby, on the signature features of these? What's new to Seattle?
These things don't really show like all the color and all the paving patterns and stuff we want to try to do. If we want to try to incorporate like some signature feature into the park, definitely know that from this meeting, and we can work it into one of these concepts and design around it, some sort of center icon thing.
Like a tribute to something that's like,
Other than that, these concepts are kind of showing more like something that's going to be highly aesthetically detailed out with colored concrete, cantilever caps, and things like that. So
We had some conversations the other day when we were meeting with Colby and talking with our LAs and talking about some of the stuff we might be able to do with stain and whatnot, and referring back to some of the trees because are trying to deal with that, and maybe like root patterns or shadows of them and things like that. So I mean, if you guys have ideas that feed into that conversation for us, let us know. And primarily, again, we're going to be looking at budget elements for that kind of stuff, but it's something we can do
I thought about
relatively
on this concept,
inexpensive.
like if this central planner would go away or would turn into something more like a bank it on all sides or something unique. We could do like a center feature out here that you can skate around, something.
Just to follow up though, so just recognizing like, so I was the lead on the Seattle Center, and those, it's great to have stamped concrete, but people don't skate shades. So just think about, I know your LAs want that, and all the stakeholders want shades and aesthetically beautiful stuff, and I'm all for it.
Solid color.
But I want something that I can go to that's got something different than in every single park.
Yeah.
And so my vote right now, you can just hear me out, is that there needs to be a feature in here that we don't have anywhere else in Seattle.
Do you guys have any suggestions on what that might be? Is there anything in town worth replicating or anything you guys have drawn
Like
up?
that red
or-
square statue, I can send in historical pictures of it skated in both stages. I know that I've seen if you find some like
We'll get some
70s
pictures of
photos.
that.
Seattle
You could-
Center double set.
And that's a good one too.
Seattle Youth.
Yes, go ahead.
I was thinking for like the signature thing would be the A-frame hubba. That's from Street League. Like I don't know if any other parks have
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I mean, here's some of the stuff.
What
I
is
mean,
that?
short of like making everything
The-
blue and yellow. I
the
mean,
up
this
and
is kind
down
of like the
color.
aesthetic of the feature design that we were going for. I don't think people don't want to use yellow and blue. I don't think, and I think the colors that are chosen might have to relate to the playground design. But
They seem to like this one.
Yeah.
Just to put some context around this discussion, so, you know, we went for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years just happy to have skate parks, and then we got to this like pretty privileged position where we're working with people who we could ask to, like, if you're a skate park designer, that's your job. I know you're trying to just kind of get the nuts and bolts together here, but if you got something in the back of your sketchbook that you've been looking for an opportunity to put into a park, it's almost like we're saying, please show us your out there, like one crazy out there idea, because we would like to have one thing in every park that, like, when you see a picture of it, you go, oh, that's Roxhill. Like, there's an identifiable piece of that park that gives it character, that makes it unique, and that, you know, that can come from your imagination, and I think that's probably, when we present designers with this challenge, we think it's like, it should be awesome. It should be like an opportunity for you to go like, okay, that thing that I've been trying to, you know, Ontario didn't want it, whatever didn't want it, San Diego didn't want it, these guys want my crazy thing, you know?
That's a
I
great
have a
idea.
bunch of those in the sketchbook. Like you're saying, if we want to try to, we want to come out of this meeting with that being a priority, I'm all about it. I can definitely share that stuff with you guys, and I know we can find a place in the park for it.
Okay, the greens there?
I just want to support that idea of the planters leaning them back, you know, 10 or 15 degrees so you can do wall rides down them or well across them. I think it's a really good idea. And the other thing you can do all these without using extra space or putting much budget is, a lot of the times the perimeter, you know, you always have grass and stuff coming over anyway. Put a little slappy curve along the edge of the slab.
Bank slapping.
We're
You
talking
know,
about that, yeah.
Again, you can slightly bend them back. And the other thing is, like, what you're saying, and I agree with, is the different heights and variety of elements instead of the same thing that you did. But yeah, the wall rides and the slappy curves.
Slappy curves to drain.
Yeah.
This fellow right here in the blue plaid.
So on your bank to curb and those two designs over there, and instead of that gap, could you consider putting some stairs so you could do like bank to trick on the stairs? Because it'd serve the same purpose as the gap, but it'd be a skatable element rather than just.
Yeah, I just did one at Desert West in Phoenix, and it's a similar type of bank. It's a 3.5 foot tall bank, 24 degrees, and it has a ledge on top, and then 3 ledges that pop out of it, and you can ride the bottom one like a ledge.
Yeah.
And you kind of skip the middle one, but the top one and the second one down you can ride well.
Yeah, I
the
think
middle
that'd
one
be-
you just skip for looks, and then the bottom one you can ride like a ledge. It's great.
I think that'd be cool. And then in the bottom where you have the California, that feature, you know, the hubba, whatever you call it, the bridge or whatever.
The screen?
Yeah. So that on one of those designs, A, you don't have a manual pad, but on B, you have that manual pad up above. But I was just wondering, instead of that ledge thing next to the hubba, if you could make that more of a ledge manual pad combo rather than using that.
Can you show me this piece right here?
No, right here. If you go with this one, you have no manual pad, but here, instead of using this, make just a straight manual pad
Just a
ledge.
regular lower manual pad?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to use these benches, you know?
And it just gives you more variety down there.
We don't have to use these benches.
I
think we need a manual pad.
With the beard. Just another idea that I kind of had looking at that little detail in the banked wall is, what about putting like a concrete pipe that you could skate the top of on there, so you could like hit that and bump off the top because it was rounded. Then it would still have kind of the drainage feature look to it. Might be kind of fun.
The pipe coming out of the hole this way or vertical?
Is a drainage feature.
Vertical pipe or?
No, the pipe's sticking out. Like, I don't know, I've seen this in videos. There's this crusty bank wall where everybody goes over the pipe, and I've seen one guy who like nollie bumps the pipe and flips onto the bank on the other side, and it's kind of like, you know, if it was a big enough diameter pipe that you could kind of bump off of it, that might be kind of cool. And it also is, hey, look, that's the drain to push the water out of the park if you're squeegeeing or whatever.
Sounds cool. Draw it up. Let's draw it up.
In the blue sweatshirt.
I definitely agree that you should also make it just like a basic manual pad and ledge, because that's definitely something a lot of skate parks are missing, and could make it like a lot more fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Just flow wise, like this one that's on the screen that has the stairs going upward, or it's a stair or a bank?
Yeah.
Between the trees?
This one right here.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that sort of makes a weird flow, like you're gonna have to start from top of those other stairs.
Yeah, you're gonna be jammed over here.
Yeah.
That goes back to our perpendicular flow from the last concept, where there's a lot more potential for that perfect crisscross flow. I mean, all these concepts you can go every which way, but that's just totally setting it up for that, you know?
Yes.
Come back to the other picture, like the one with the bottom right corner, the little like banks that are like triangular. No, the other one. Yeah, that one, like the bottom right corner, the little like banks that are like triangular. I think that you guys should make it more like a quarter pipe, like a Del Ridge, like the corner, as like it goes up a quarter pipe and then it switches to another quarter pipe that you can go down. Because I think that this one has way too many banks all around it, and you should switch up for more transition.
I don't know which I like better personally. I had a hip there, tranny hip, and then I had a bank tip there. Either way, it's all good.
Seems like on a tranny hip though, you can actually get more speed to try to make it back up the ski hill.
Yeah. I don't know, those bank tips and a 45 is a little tight. I think you'd have to make the banks a little steeper so you can, it's more of an upward ollie than carving, you know?
If
I
you
think
want
one
to
tranny
through
element
any
would
of
be
these,
good.
they're probably a little easier to see on the screen. Let me know.
We haven't seen the one with the fancy weird rock formation thing on it up on the screen yet.
Okay.
Do you have, where's the one where it's colored?
Yeah,
The 3D version.
the rendering of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
the rendering one?
That's what I mean.
Oh, we were talking about trying to do rocks or shotcrete rocks or boulders or something behind there instead of a cantilever quarter pipe or a big berm behind it, and it's just going to be expensive to do something like that.
Yes.
Sorry, I got one more quick question about like the, not in this view, if you can go back 2 views, I'm sorry. Okay, see that
That
top
one, sorry.
one? Yeah, that's good. Feature E you have there, and then you have it labeled, I think, F and 11. Is that gonna be like a cornerable hip type bank? Do you think you're gonna be able to drop down C, backside ollie E, and be turned enough to be going down G? Does that make sense? It looks like I'm gonna go into the bushes.
It'll work, but it's not my favorite line, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so what's the point of that then, right there?
It was an attempt to get like a 90-degree bank tip somewhere, in case you guys wanted to do a 90-degree bank tip.
Yeah.
Which I think is way better for flipping over than like a 45 bank tip.
It's kind of like the other thing I see that we're missing along with the manual pad is sort of your, you know,
Pyramid.
pyramid that has 490-degree banks, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers a mini but better version of the Des Moines pyramid. It's be super fun. Yeah, but like you could, you know, if you made one side of it like the more, and the other side of it more like a plank, that'd be fun. If it's just, I don't know where you can really fit that. That's another thing that maybe could be in that sort of same manual pad area. But I see the idea of E, but that doesn't look like it's gonna work.
Yeah, that's when we changed it up to this one. I think that works way better.
Yeah, it's got more of a corner.
The blue sweatshirt back here?
It's like, can you go back one so we can just Is that like slanted down or is that?
That's a sloping manual pad. It's 8 inches tall or 10 inches tall.
I just wonder if you could go back to the rock formation one, the other view.
The 3D?
So when I look at that center part, and so there's bank, rail, stair, hubba, bank, stair, a rail, stair, hubba, bank, stair, a bank, hubba, and another bank. So basically, you can't lip slide a rail or ollie a 5 stair or do a hubba. That whole center section getting to the bottom is just going down a bank. So I just wonder, I recognize the challenges with grades, but I'm also cognizant of not everybody's a rail monkey, so.
They're gonna be wall rides.
What else would it be?
It's a point though, because there's not like, there's no down, just like he was just saying, there's no downward manual pad, so if you don't want to hit any of those rails, really all you can do is ride directly down a bank.
If there was a slappy curve on the side, you could slappy curve.
I would be with that. I'm just bringing up the point that we just don't want to get into a situation where you basically have to hit a single feature going down the entire set.
You with the green cap back there? You. You had your hand up?
Oh. Well, I was gonna say about the rock formation. I think it would attract like a lot of kids and families and stuff. It's bad.
Oh, which is bad.
That is bad. That's right where a skateboard would shoot out and take a kid's teeth out.
Did you get your question answered?
Can you go back one? So, is it possible to make like a wally to the down mini pad?
The manual pad has a banked
Yeah,
backside
yeah,
to it.
yeah, like a quick wally.
But they have a belt.
I mean, if you're talking about a 10-inch pad, you'll just end up with a little guy. You know, it's not much of a wall either.
Yes.
I was going to suggest that exact same thing to solve the problem that Ryan was bringing up on that other one. If you could there was a way to ride up onto one of those hubbas or something like that, then at least you wouldn't have to go down the bank every time. You could just ride up and grind down.
Yeah, if we didn't use the Street League hubbas, we could do I just did one in Desert West and Phoenix. It's a angular hubba ledge. It's banked on all 4 sides. Watch the footage. You do a
Just something you could ride up on and
yeah,
grind
it's
down.
amazing.
Give you something else to do.
Blue sweatshirt back there?
So there's G is that like a hubba or is that just a ledge?
I think it's a Pier 7, isn't it?
Gee.
That's what it says.
It's a little Pier 7
so
block.
is
That can be anything. It can be flat, little mellow rail.
Yeah, I was thinking like you can make F instead of being slanted is flat, so it's like a manual pad with just a drop at the end, and then possibly make G wider out so that can be used as a downward manual pad, but also the hubba or the rail or whatever it's going to be.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that the entry to the hip isn't too steep, because it's kind of hard to set up for a trick when you got that one where it's bank, but the entry is super steep, so it's kind of smacking it instead of just smoothly riding up. So.
Yeah, you want to train at the bottom of the base.
And also, you could tear down the Moines skate park and use that money for lights.
We don't have any jurisdiction anymore. It's just make that clear. Yes.
Can you go back to the 3D version of this? Yeah. Right here, where the hubba is on the left corner next to the stairs. What if you move the stairs over to the right a little bit, angle it, and the bank that goes up make that a quarter pipe so you can either ride back up or you can drop in and ride and go up to the little quarter pipes on the left corner and just do the rest of the park. Because I think that the stair set, once you like ollie, you're gonna have like speed, or if you grind it, you're probably just gonna go up the quarter pipe and just like either like go off or fall down.
We're getting a lot of comments on the Plan D version right now, so I want to know if there's
Is there a preferred
more-
concept that looks like you guys can tweak it into
Yeah,
something that
go
everybody
through them
wants?
all. And I kind of don't want to, sometimes what can happen is you wind up getting a lot
Yeah,
of
3D
comments,
ones
but
are
it's not
easier
the
to
one
look
that
at.
people are really most excited about, so I want to make sure that we're getting a sense, because we're,
Flip through them twice and do a hand raise on them after, on the second
if you
time
want to
through.
do that,
So we can, like,
I just don't want to misinterpret lots of comments on one.
Yeah, the 3D ones are better to look at.
Okay.
It's easier to look at.
All of them? I don't think we're missing a 3D on one.
Yeah, we have all.
Yeah, there's only 3 of them.
But I think we have a major footprint on one, and we're obviously going to be kind of still making some tweaks to the individual features, but.
These are all about between
Yeah, that-
94,000 and 97,000 square feet. They need to tweak them a little bit in the budget, and then come down.
Before we get into this, maybe I can explain a little bit about the viewing area that I studied for one of these versions. And this one is exactly that one, similar, but it's the other version. And right here is a nice viewing area that you can overlook this plaza, and then the other good spot is between the upper level and the lower level. Like put some picnic table here and here. And if the grades work out, we might be able to create this connection trail for that 2 viewing area. But some of these options work better with the grades and the viewing area. So, and some work better with the trees. So those are another consideration point. Like the B is wider than others. This one is D, right? Yeah, this one is D. This one, this corner is kind of closer to street, like 28 feet. Those are 40 feet to the street. So, and then this one, this option, these 2 options kind of push into this tree, London plane tree. But if that's the direction that people like, we can shift this footprint, and then maybe Kobe can do some tweaking to make it work. So those are just the point I want to point out.
We actually met with the park's arborist again out here now that we've got some footprints to work on. And one of the things that we're researching right now is the cost of, they've got tree spades, so you can move trees, and actually what the cost is to rent one for a couple days and how many trees we could get done in a couple days. So that's one thing that we're looking at as an option, is actually moving some. There are a lot of trees on site out there, just in general in the park, especially in the picnic area at the park, that aren't the best locations, and so we might be able to make use of that as a benefit for the whole park.
Are those mature trees, fully grown?
They're not, there's some that are smaller and some are larger. So
Yeah.
we've been
We
looking at that.
identify some of the significant tree from the site analysis. So, so these are London plane tree. They are very nice. That we try to keep. Some of these trees in hollow are not as important, and some of these plants take out these 3 small trees, sweet gum and tulip tree. They are small enough. We think we can relocate them to that.
Okay, I was just had a question if they're going to grow any bigger. Like, for example, the trees that are in the middle of the park.
Yes, they will get bigger.
Is that going to cause any issues with
shadows?
Well, we're looking to move some of those smaller ones, so we would actually be opening up a little bit.
Well, I was just going to put a little history to people that those trees were moved in 2000. A lot of them were moved when the Roxhill Bog restoration went in. They literally were picked up and moved into that site. So possibly they still can be moved.
Yeah, and if we do it right in winter, break a roof first and then relocate them. So that's kind of, we have a very timeline, for the winter to work on the tree.
One more question.
I
and
just
then
wanted to stress again that I think we really need a curb or ledges that don't have metal capping on them.
Okay.
That's just really inorganic. And when I grew up, when I was a kid skating, we didn't really, everything was concrete or whatever. There wasn't all this metal crap everywhere.
Thank you. We only have a few minutes, and we want to try to get some idea of which of these designs you prefer. So I'll let you go through, and we'll take a hand vote or something.
But keep in mind, it's probably not exact because we still need to work with the site.
Yeah, I think we need to know what the better direction is at this point, so we've got something we can focus in on, a footprint we can focus in on, and what has the, the things that are going to be in there in the footprint are the directional elements, the layers, so.
Maybe keep it on each one for like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Let's go through all of those and then go back and do this.
Okay.
So is there no 3D?
Let me know when.
We need to see the 3D though.
There's not
Yeah,
3D.
they.
Is there no 3D?
We were here. So this is
D. That's D.
That's D. Yeah, we were working up
That's
to
A.
the last minute doing these.
That's not A.
That's
B.
B.
Oh,
Oops,
no,
sorry.
that one.
B.
That one is A.
That's B.
That is
It's
not
B.
A.
It's B.
That's the one on the
Yes,
bottom right.
it's got two planters. Yeah.
That's bottom right.
No, you go back. So A has this depot entry plaza and has 3 levels going down.
But there's.
That's what
B.
we've got, yeah. It's not, they're a little different.
Oh, but
Yeah.
you
Because
don't
that
have
has
this
2
one.
planters.
It says they're
right?
different as it did not go off.
Yeah, 3D is not.
Just because they're.
Yeah.
It's gotta go with the.
Yeah, we need to look at those site plans for now. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go through just the site plans.
Can you guys make a tech deck version of this once it's complete?
Okay, do you wanna go back through them and just do a show of hands, see where people feel?
Could you do that, I don't think everybody would. Give us a 15 seconds on each one.
I'm not counting.
Yeah, everybody look at it.
Backwards.
So that's, what letter is that one?
D.
D, that's letter D. And that's letter?
C.
C.
Okay, B. B.
It's okay, now you'll just have to go the other way, and then we'll do the hands.
Okay. A.
We do hands or not?
We'll do hands now. Can we show hands for A?
Okay, can you count off so I can see 1?
7, 8.
Oh, you're gonna hard to get it. You got 8?
8.
Hey, Kelly, also, so we do have the space for another hour, right?
About half an hour. They start asking us to pack up at 7:30.
I'm just wondering because it seems like we're making it'd be so nice to be able to sit and actually just look at it for a second.
Well, if you guys want to, could we take a few minutes and come up and take a look at these, and then come back, or come on over if you want to come up, take a look at both of these, and then just come over and put one hash mark on the thing. Okay, that'll be easier and slightly more.
Gotta go.
Do you have preference? Get a vote too.
No, I'm gonna
I know. And